want to thank you very much for sticking with us last Thursday. We were scheduled to have our weekly Hope episode with Claire Misko, who is the CEO of NIDA, and we were so excited to have her on, but we had some major technical difficulties and we were not able to do that. So I want to thank everyone for your patience with us with all of that. And thank you for joining us again this week, of course. So I'm just on our Facebook page and I'm seeing us. We're here. So bravo. So welcome back for another episode. This is Weekly Hope. If it's your first time joining us, hello and welcome. And if you're coming back, I know we've got several people who come back every week and we're so thankful to have you. So thank you for being here and spending your Wednesday afternoon with us. So I'm Kirsten Hagland, by the way, as if we haven't met before, hello and welcome. And usually I bring my co-host in at some point, my furry co-host, Kristina. I don't know if you've met Elsa.
I did meet Elsa.
Oh yeah, you did in New York. Yes, this is Elsa, my co-host. She usually pops in to say hello to everyone at some point. So she says hello and welcome. She's a little tired today. We went on a long hike over the weekend and it was hot, and so she's still recovering, I think. But hello everyone and welcome. So this week's guest, we've been promoting on social media and have been really, really excited to bring her on and to talk with her. We are welcoming Kristina Saffran, and she is the co-founder and executive director of Project Heal. And she has an incredible story herself, but also with her other co-founder, Liana, who I'm sure she'll tell you about. They have done really incredible things with Project Heal and also have an incredibly cool vision for where they're going next. So that's why I wanted to bring Kristina on to share her story and then also to share the vision for what Project Heal is doing and kind of what the next chapter looks like. So welcome, Kristina.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to be on and share my story and Project Heal's story.
Yeah. So first of all, where are you joining us from? Where in the world are you?
I am in San Diego, California right now.
Okay, wonderful, cool. So to begin, if people don't know about Project Heal, which if they are a part of the eating disorders community, I'm sure they probably do. But why don't you start off by giving us just a brief download of how Project Heal got started? I know you've told the story a million times, but it is so inspiring and such a huge core central part of your mission.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I love telling the story. So I struggled with anorexia starting when I was 10 and then relapsing when I was 13, and in treatment when I was 13, met my co-founder, Leanna Rosenman, and the two of us just became friends. It was actually kind of a year later after the treatment hurdle that we got back together and started to develop a healthy recovery-oriented friendship. And, you know, it was funny. It started a group of like 12 of us. It was like a treatment reunion. And slowly the group got smaller and smaller as we would go to dinner and then go to dessert and challenge one another. And what was really special about Leanna and my friendship was that we always pushed one another, right? It wasn't like, I don't think I could do Cold Stone after dinner. It was like, yes, you are. You're doing it. And we always just held each other accountable and really, you know, encouraged one another in recovery. So it was really strong and recovery oriented. And frankly, as we progressed in our recovery through our friendship and our conversations shifted from our own issues to broader issues in the field, it really just kept circling back to, oh my God, so many people can't get treatment. And, you know, we had been fortunate that we had great insurance and, you know, came from upper middle class families where our parents could afford to pay what our insurance didn't cover, but saw so many people being cut early from treatment before they were ready, and then got out and just read the staggering stats that this affects 30 million Americans and the majority of people don't get treatment. And we were like, this is horrible. We have to do something about it. And that was the catalyst for starting Project Heal.
Wow. Yeah. And tell me a little bit more about, because I've met and love Liana as well. She's an amazing person. You both are. And can you tell me a little bit about how you kept that friendship strong? Because eating disorders have a strange way of being competitive, of destroying relationships, even in recovery. And now you work together at Project Heal, right? And of course, a business relationship is different from a friendship. And we always get a lot of comments and questions about how we handle the relationships in our life as we move through recovery. So did you guys ever hit any bumps in the road, or how did you keep it so strong to where you are today?
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, I'll take the first part of it. I mean, I think that I touched on the first part of it a little bit, of being sure that this remained a really healthy, recovery-oriented, non-enabling friendship. And we always say sort of, you know, people who have been there, and I'm sure I'll touch on this later, can be the absolute most helpful thing, I fully believe, in the recovery process. But you know, it is really challenging because people who aren't necessarily at a great place in their recovery, it's a, you know, competitive disease by nature, and you can get really triggered by others. And so one, making sure that, you know, we were both in the place that we were strong enough in our recovery to have that be healthy. And then two, just, you know, we were really, really positive influences. And frankly, I would say Leanna was probably a little bit further along than me in recovery. So she really like encouraged me and motivated me and pushed me. And I'm forever thankful for that. In terms of the growing relationship, I mean, definitely hurdles. Leanna and I will both tell you it's been 11 years now. Oh my God. And we've grown a thing from like a small baby to a real organization. We now actually have 5 full-time employees, all of whom are people in recovery, which is really exciting to me and one of the things that I'm absolutely the proudest of. And, you know, I don't think this is unique to the eating disorder field, the co-founder relationship. As you grow something together and transition something together, you have to work. And we have amazing mentors and advisors who work with us to make sure that that relationship stays strong and healthy. And I think at the end of the day, it goes back to, you know, why we're doing this and the core of like why we developed Project Heal, which always remains really core. And then frankly, we always joke about with the whole staff being recovered. I'm sure you've heard me say this, but you know, when people are like, oh my God, you guys founded this at 15, we're like, yep, it's anorexia gone good. Like taking all of those traits that enable you to have an eating disorder or predispose you to an eating disorder, perfectionism, you could say compulsivity, you know, extreme attention to detail, really aggressive work ethic. And, you know, when they're turned into a good, channeled into a good place, they can be incredibly powerful traits. And so we have a stellar and phenomenal workforce. And then the other parts of it, you know, I think that we all grow together in. So, you know, learning how to handle critical feedback and rejection. And, you know, frankly, like fundraising is a big part of what we do. And I always describe fundraising as going out, you know, 10 times and getting one yes, and just looking for that one yes in the sea of no's. And you just have to keep going and have a thick skin. So I think, you know, running an organization, especially like a small startup type organization, really teaches you great things in recovery as well.
Yeah, I'm so right about rejection. And I think that's such a great message to reiterate, of course, to people who are in recovery. I think that sometimes there's these thoughts that, oh, well, once I'm recovered, then everything's going to be great. And I'm going to be, you know, just they're unrealistic perceptions of what life in recovery looks like. But you know, you still get rejected, you still get criticized, you still get people who don't understand what you went through, and you still get a whole lot of no's in life. That's just life.
Yep, 100%. Life is still life. And the difference is like you ride the waves, right? And like you will have downs, but then you ride them, you don't turn to behaviors, you have other healthy coping skills, and inevitably with time, it waves back up.
Yeah, absolutely. So speaking of those one yeses, you guys have, as you mentioned, grown just phenomenally over the last decade, which is crazy. I know time flies, but have really been able to engage people outside of the sphere of eating disorders, which I think, and I know many think, has been really, really cool. I know that you guys have done a lot in Silicon Valley with companies like Uber and Ariana Huffington, and you know, how has the message been delivered to them so that they understand it and they have buy-in, do you think? You know, where has the eating disorder community gone wrong in the past with their messaging and engaging these other people? And what did you find that worked?
Yeah, I mean, I can't really speak to what was done in the past. I think that unfortunately, there's so much stigma around this disorder, obviously. And, you know, to me, when you think about sheer numbers, this is a numbers game, 30 million Americans suffer. Eating disorder nonprofits collectively raise less than $10 million a year. It's like shockingly underfunded. There are so many more people who care about this issue and who are affected who are just not speaking out about it. And largely that comes from the stigma. I think that, the thing, one, we just went outside of the eating disorder community. That was a purposeful move that we made because we wanted to broaden this conversation beyond, we all agree and we all are trying to do the right thing. We just have to move the conversation beyond our immediate community. And then the other thing is really working to build strong relationships. I think more than the messaging, it's about the relationship building, because it's scary to talk about this stuff. And I think an example that I really love to use, Parag Marathe is the chief strategy officer of the San Francisco 49ers, now a great member of our board of directors. And he tragically lost his sister Shilpa to anorexia about 15 years ago. And really didn't talk about it for, 10 years and just started very slowly speaking. I saw him speak at this tiny little event in the Bay. And I was like, oh my God, you have to join us. And so we met for coffee. And I remember I told him my whole vision for the eating disorder field. And we want, everyone to know about these and really understand and whatnot. And he was so in. He was like, yes, I'm a male, I'm a minority, I'm in football. Like, I'm your person.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, great, wonderful. He was going to be our gala honoree. This is now about 2 years ago. And he kind of went radio silent. I was emailing him about, selling tables and whatnot. And he essentially got on the phone and was like, I'm so sorry, but I don't know if I'm ready for this. And we, this is early in our relationship. And I really just talked to him and said, forget about the fundraising, forget about any other aspects. If you could come and just share your story, I think that would be so powerful because your story is so powerful. And he sort of thought about it and said, okay, I think I could do that. And I didn't hear from him until the event. And 3 days before, he texted me and he was like, do you need me help selling more tables? I'm starting to get more comfortable. And I was like, it's okay, just come. And literally since he's gotten off the stage, he has been like, this is my cause. We need to do more around this. And 3 days later, we had been doing press outreach and the New York Times reached out to us and said, we'd like to do an exclusive interview with Parag. So I called him up and I was like, how comfortable are you? New York Times wants to do an exclusive interview. And he was like, you know what? For you guys, for this cause, I'm going to do it. And he did it. And it was amazing. So many people from the NFL community. I mean, talk about stigma and a disparate community from the eating disorder community reached out and said, hey, I've struggled with this too. Thank you so much for sharing your story. This is absolutely amazing. And Parag has become our greatest champion, now hosts our annual gala every year at Levi Stadium and has engaged a lot of different stakeholders. And that's what it is. It's like Parag speaking up and sharing his story. The more people who do that, the more people say, okay, you know what? I can share my story as well.
Yeah, no, you're so right. The personal story element has such an impact. And I can't even tell you how, when I've lobbied before on Capitol Hill for mental health policy or eating disorders legislation, you're finding more and more now senators and, congressmen and women whose own children are struggling with this. And that's when they finally start to get it. That personal element really, there's really nothing stronger. There is just nothing stronger. I just wanted to mention that Sarah Rutherford, who has joined us before. Hey, welcome back, Sarah. I'm pretty sure I've seen your name here before, so welcome. She says stigma is so huge. If health professionals don't even understand eating disorders, I worry that no one else will ever really get it. And that is truly an issue as well. Rebecca just says, hi, where is this place? And I think she needs clarification that Project Heal is not a place, maybe a place in our minds.
We have 40 chapters across the country, so very likely.
Yeah, actually talk a little bit about that, because that's a really wonderful segue into how you're using those chapters and their influence to be more grassroots. I'll let you explain.
Totally. Yeah. So the chapters really came about, to start this off, Project Heal, we founded 10 years ago to raise money for people that couldn't afford treatment. That was what we were doing. The chapters sort of came up accidentally. Essentially, people kept reaching out to us saying, how do we get involved? And we said, give us money. And they said, we want to do more. And we said, raise money in your own community. And so that's how the chapters came about, very organically. We had 40 before we had a single staff member. So clearly there's a need here, right? People want to talk about this. And it's really only been in the last, when I talk about the real growth of Project Heal, I would say the last 2 or 3 years since I graduated from college, have been able to do this for more full-time, built a staff from 0 to 5. And very importantly, hired a full-time director of chapters about 1.5 years ago. She came on. And so we've really been working over the past 1.5 years to think more strategically about how we make a greater impact and how we really utilize those chapters. This is a great time to be talking to you because we're fresh out of strategic planning, where chapters are playing an absolutely huge role. We, about 2 months ago, updated our mission statement to provide access to healing for all people with eating disorders. And so we deliver that via 2 primary programs. The first is our treatment access program. So obviously a continuation of our original program, so hugely important given that the majority of people with eating disorders don't get treatment. Right now, or up until this year, we were able to help about 20 people a year with really significant grants of about, $15,000 each, not even including all the amazing donated services we get at residential and IOP and PHP levels of care, which if you combine that, it's like a $45,000 each scholarship. So we've helped about 90 people to date, which we see as an amazing accomplishment and also recognizes a bit of a drop in the bucket in terms of all the people who need help. So over the last year, we've been working really closely with Lisa Cantor, who I'm sure many of your listeners know is one of the most amazing legal advocates in the country, and especially in the field of eating disorders, working to give people coverage. And we've been working together to devise a program where ultimately we're helping every single person who applies to us. And a lot of that we're doing through helping them to navigate their insurance and fight unfair denials of care. Because the reality is, if you have health insurance, you are entitled to care for your eating disorder. We have a parity law in this country that says that mental health needs to be covered at the same rate as physical health. The reality is that doesn't happen, right? I always say I can barely understand my insurance. So it's hard to navigate at the baseline. And then a level up, insurance routinely denies care that people are entitled to. And they don't realize it's a parity violation. They just say, oh, my insurance denied that. So we're really working to devise a system to, help those folks. It's still very early in development because a lot of what we've been doing this year is simply like learning, figuring out where are the gaps, because it's really complicated, right? Different in every state, whether you have commercial, Medicare, Medicaid insurance. So really figuring out where all the gaps are so that we can devise a comprehensive strategy. But already we've been able to impact 4 times the number of people since September. So really exciting progress and really excited about the potential of that program. And then the other program that we launched about 1.5 years ago is called Communities of Healing. And that came from about 2 years ago to this date. We gathered together our clinical advisory board members, some of the leading academics in the field, and really said to them, look, we have the potential to raise money, mobilize people. What should we do? How can we have the most impact in the space? And obviously there are a number of gaps in the space and a number of things that need to happen. But one of the big things that came out was the importance of both strengthening lower levels of care. So early intervention, relapse prevention. Right now, in addition to the fact that most people get treatment, it tends to be at higher levels of care, which is amazing and important. But you can't expect somebody to go to residential for 30, 60 days if they're lucky, get super intensive 24/7 support, and then discharge them to very little and say, okay, go be well. We all know that recovery is a years-long process, super engaged. So we knew we wanted to work in that space, and then spent 3 months doing really in-depth stakeholder interviews with our chapter members. So people at all different levels of recovery from all over the country to really understand from them, you know, what was the most important thing in your recovery? And the number one thing that came out of that was the importance of recovered role models. And then we kind of said, wait a minute, peer support is this awesome clinically validated model in a number of mental health spaces. Why has this not been done in the eating disorder field, where arguably it's needed most, right? Where you don't necessarily want to recover. It's ambivalence at best. You may have never met anybody who's recovered. We still hear that from people every day.
Yes,
and further, like, doctors still say, oh, you'll always struggle with this. You'll never get better from this. So we're like, this is a no-brainer to us. Let's do it. And so we began building the program about a year and a half ago, working really, really closely with Carolyn Costin, who I'm sure many of your listeners also know and love. And she's obviously been a huge pioneer in the training of recovered people to help other people who are recovered. And so she really helped us devise a great vetting and training program for our mentors. So they go through really rigorous vetting to make sure people are in fact in a strong and active recovery for at least 2 years. And then they undergo a super comprehensive training program. It's 7 weeks, 5 hours a week, and it really grounds them in a couple of things. One, best practices of eating disorder recovery, largely drawn from Carolyn's 8 Keys to Recovery book. Two, they get a lot of training in soft skills. So how to be an active listener, what to do in a crisis situation, things that are super important in order to be a good
for
mentor.
everyone, that everyone should probably take a refresher course on.
And then 3, you know, the history of peer support, 12-step, the ex-patient survivor movement, to really ground them in, you know, how we got here and how communities of healing is both similar to and different from different programs like that. So they come out really ready to hit the ground running. And then they're supervised by a clinical supervisor biweekly, as well as our team. So we're super excited about that program. We launched in January in 5 cities. So the support groups are active in New York City, Pittsburgh, LA, San Francisco, and Boston. And then we also have a one-to-one mentorship component that can either be done via Skype and FaceTime, so anybody can do it, or in person in those sites. And that's actually currently running. We're super excited because we're partnered with Columbia's Center for Eating Disorder Research, some of the top researchers in the country, and looking at both effectiveness and cost effectiveness of the program. So, you know, super committed to rigorous evidence, developing a rigorous evidence base, and hopefully, you know, developing that evidence base so that peer support can really grow and blossom in the eating disorder community.
Yeah, that's amazing. I just want to point out that Rebecca says here, wow, that's interesting that it was recovered role models. And I think that, and you're so right. I didn't really think about it before, but the Alcoholics Anonymous community has been doing this for years. I mean, the philosophy of being surrounded by others and also having people who've gone through the same thing as a, you know, I think they call it a sponsor, but you absolutely need that support. Can you tell our viewers again the 5 cities where communities of healing are operating, and if they're interested, where they can go to find out more information?
Absolutely. So the 5 cities where we are right now are New York, Boston, Pittsburgh, LA, and San Francisco for support groups. And then the one-to-one mentorship can be done from anywhere. Right now, we are finishing up the randomized control trial. So it's free. Anyone can participate in it. But for the next probably 3 months, you still have to be a study participant. And one of our criteria is that you have to have been discharged from a higher level of care within the last 6 months. Because one of the big things that we're trying to look at is, does this reduce relapse? And that's really just important for, you know, obviously the knowledge, and then also sustainability, and, you know, being able to expand this program more broadly and get funding for it. But we're really excited to, you know, finish that study up, hopefully in the next 3 months, and then open it up to everybody.
And that's the one-on-one mentoring portion of it specifically.
That is a one-on-one mentoring portion, yeah. And to learn more, you can go to theprojectheal.org and click on the Communities of Healing tab.
Okay, I'm just going to see if I can get this. Here's the link. I just put it up on the screen. So we've got Communities of Healing tab.
I will actually, I don't know if I can send it to you, but
you might be able to hear it.
theprojectheal.org / recovery - support.
Okay. I'm going to hide that. So, and you know what? I'm going to put in our comments section so that people can just click on it. theprojectheal.
The Project Heal, yeah.
theprojectheal.org
/ recovery or / recovery - support.
I think we got it. So that we'll put it in the comment section so that people are listening. And if you're listening later, you can go click on it, learn more about it.
Amazing.
And I think it should be there. Yeah, cool. Wow. So amazing. This is probably a crazy question, but we've seen where you've been and we've heard about what you're doing now. So 10 years from now, where do you want Project Heal to be?
Absolutely.
I hate these kinds of questions, but like I hate answering them. But people often want to know. So, and I get to ask the questions this time. So
totally. No, it's a great question. And now I have a real answer coming out of strategic planning. So again, you've caught me at a good time. It really is fulfilling the mission of delivering access to healing for every single person with an eating disorder. So any single person, people in every race, ethnicity, age, gender, socioeconomic status, when everybody has full access to healing. And healing means treatment. Treatment is incredibly important and we have a long way to go there. But healing also requires more than just clinical treatment, right? It's all of these support systems. So starting with Communities of Healing, the peer support program, we're also really excited to be in development of a primary caregiver peer support program, which will be launching next year. And, building out as we're really committed to staying close to both the research in eating disorders and also listening to the needs of our constituency and our stakeholders and the people and families who are effective. So as we learn more and hear more from them about what the real needs are in the eating disorder community, that will grow our program. So really tangibly, I want Communities of Healing to be like AA, like anybody who deals with substance abuse knows, okay, I can find an AA group probably within 30 minutes of where I live. I can get a sponsor. I want it to be the same thing with Communities of Healing. It's accessible for everybody. And then really where every single person, is able to access the treatment that they're entitled to in the country. And through that, that sort of brings me back to the next 2 years and the chapters. We really see our core strength as this amazing grassroots movement of having these amazing 40 chapters across the country of people who so believe in our mission and have been affected. And they really are going to be the delivery engines of the programs in their own community. So a lot of what we're focusing on the next year and a half is growing chapter capacity. So really making sure that they are enabled to deliver these programs and also having all of our chapters conduct community needs assessments. So going into their communities and really understanding, what are the issues here? What are the demographics of the community? Communities can look really different. You may have, a heavy Muslim population who celebrates Ramadan and what does that look like for recovery? All those pieces. And then also developing a clear understanding of what are the eating disorder resources and the eating disorder community within those communities? Because obviously somewhere like, San Francisco is going to look super different from somewhere like Boise, Idaho. And, we still want to bring the program to both places. It will just, the path to getting there is going to look pretty different. So that's a big focus of ours in the next year and a half.
So cool. Thank you so much. Well, last thing before you go, thank you so much for graciously spending so much time here and giving us a view into the future. And I'm so excited that you guys are pioneering into this space. It's so needed. But last thing before we go, we obviously have a lot of people who watch these broadcasts who are currently struggling. And as someone who has been through this journey, what words of hope, of inspiration can you give them?
Absolutely. Well, I've loved being here and I love talking about Project Heal and where we're going. And I love recovery. So I love talking about recovery and giving advice. I think that, being really real, the thing that I always say is recovery is the absolute hardest thing I've ever done. It is hard work. You kind of, I essentially hated myself for an entire year and still had to do the things that I didn't want to do. And a lot of it was autopilot. Expect that hard work, but also know that it does get better. And if you're doing it, you're on autopilot, you keep doing it little by little, it gets easier and easier and easier. And then one day, there isn't a day where you're like, I'm in recovery. You sort of wake up and you're like, wait a minute, this life looks really different. And actually, I'm super happy. Recovery is 100% worth it. No one is ever going to tell you in their lives, despite all of the annoyances of day-to-day life and the rejections and the whatnot that still happens, no one is ever going to tell you that they regret recovering. It is 100% worth it. Just stay with it.
Yeah, so good. So good. It does get better. Before you go, just want to get here. Micah asked, does Project Heal have a branch in Oklahoma by any chance? Is there a chapter in Oklahoma?
Oh, you're putting me on the spot. Now that there are 40 of them, I don't always know. But the answer is, if there is not one, reach out to us. We have a chapter page on our website where you can see all of them. And if there is not one, we would love you to start one or become an ambassador, which is the first step to starting a chapter in your local area.
Awesome. Cool. So your website, which we put there in the comments, theprojectheal.org, has a list of chapters that Micah can look at.
Yeah.
And then the other comment here from Rebecca, she says, how many years do you think recovery takes?
That's such a hard one. I always say it took me 3 full years after I was at a stable weight and not using any behaviors that I was like, oh, this is recovery. Yeah. So it's long. It takes a long time. And I think the hardest part is the physical healing comes way before the psychological healing.
Oh, absolutely. And also it is different for every person. I mean, there are people, unfortunately, that I know who have decades been in recovery and others who have, oddly recovered very fast. I not less than a year. I can't even imagine that being possible, but I am also not a clinician. So that is not a clinician answer. But it just depends. It just depends. And I just think that's so important to emphasize because it's everyone's journey is so different and we should never feel shame if our recovery is not going as fast as someone else's or, all that kind of stuff. Is everyone's journey is different and people do relapse, right? We're hoping they don't, as things like communities of healing will help stop. But people do relapse and that can be a part of recovery. And that doesn't mean that you failed and that full freedom is still not possible.
Exactly. Exactly. It's part of a journey. And I love that everyone's journey is different and unique, but full recovery is possible for every single person.
Amen, sister. Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you all for joining us too. Rebecca, Micah, Sarah, who's back with us again, all of you guys. Thank you. And I'm going to get Elsa. We always say goodbye. Elsa has been with me. I think I've mentioned this before, has been with me through some seriously hard times in life. So she is my co-host, not only on Weekly Hope, but also in life.
That's what dogs are for.
seriously. So Project Heal has also been an incredible supporter of and partner with Eating Disorder Hope, and Eating Disorder Hope has been so excited to partner with you guys. So anything we can always do to help promote what you're doing, we're glad to do so as well.
The feelings are mutual. We love you guys.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll let Kristina go and we'll just say goodbye to everyone for this week. Thank you. Please share this video. It's going to live at the top of the Eating Disorder Hope Facebook page for the rest of the week until our episode next Wednesday. But thank you so much for tuning in wherever you are in the world. Have a beautiful, blessed evening, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks for having me.
Bye.